So if you're joining us, if this is the first clip you're watching on the Perfecto Satchel, this is the actual construction of the bag itself. We've already done the lining in the other clip, so it doesn't really matter which way you do them, bag first or lining first, but you've got to complete one whole process before you go ahead and join them, otherwise you're going to be in real trouble. So I'm going to go through the bits with you now, because you'll see that they're actually quite simple, but with most things, with most garments and most bags, it's the preparation that's really key. If you do all the preparation properly, your project's going to go together so easily. It'll be a lot more fun, a lot more enjoyable, and you won't be looking at the bag when it's finished thinking, oh, I really hate you. You'll be really liking it. So I'm going to work from the bottom up. Here is the bottom of the bag. Okay, I have interfaced it. This is the only piece that you must interface the bag, and I've used the hated Pellon Craft Bond. I don't like it at all, but it has its uses. This is pretty much one of its uses. So I've done that, and I've put little kiss marks. I'm not sure if you can see them, little crosses where my purse feet are going to be, but I'm not putting them in yet. Oh no, I'm not, and I'll tell you why. I'm also using this in the bottom. This is plastic tapestry canvas. It's not really canvas, it's a plastic mesh. Some people call it hardhanger, doesn't matter, you can find it at any craft store, and it's really, really cheap. It's about $1.50 for a huge sheet of this. So I've cut it to shape. There's a different pattern for the bottom piece than there is for this. It's slightly smaller, about a 1/16 of an inch all the way round. And I've got this prepared, and this will plop on here when I've almost completed the bag. And then I'm going to put the purse feet through these holes here and fasten them, and then put the lining in, so everything's going to kind of stay where it should be. It's a very sneaky trick, but it's really, really effective. So that's the bottom. And then we've got the sides and the front and back. Now this piece is the back. That's the inside of the bag. That's the outside, don't forget. Ooh, lovely, metallic pewter, faux leather with a mock croc embossed finish. Gorgeous. So that's the outside, that's the inside, and we've got 3 pieces of interfacing on the back piece. This is where the flap is going to be sewn in on the outside, and this is the placement for the straps. I've put interfacing on here because I'm not interfacing anything else in my bag. I want a nice relaxed slouchy bag. Of course, if you're using a much lighter weight fabric, or you just want a bit more body, then you'll interface the whole piece of the back and front. But what I would say is be very, very careful you don't go ahead and use something like this, because it'll be like a big brick, it'll be horrible. That's fine for the bottom, not for the rest of it. With this, I've just used some scraps of, I think it's Pro Weft from Fashion Sewing Supply. The best interfacing in the world, I promise you, it's great. And because I can't really press this so much, I applied it by just laying it down, pulling the iron about ½ an inch off and steaming, and then just patting it down, and it's fine. It's stuck beautifully. It's really, really good. So that's the back piece, and this will be the front. Now this has got the strap placement pieces as well, and it's got this for where the magnetic closure is going to be, but we are not going to apply that yet. That's going to be the second to last thing that you apply. Trust me on this. Then we've got the flaps. This is the inside flap. You can see I've put a little piece of interfacing there. I've put 1/2 of my magnetic closure on there. That's going to be like that. It'll hang on the bag like that and close it up like that. And this, of course, is the top layer. So we've got 2 of those. That's how our flap's going to look when it's done, sitting on top of the bag, looking rather gorgeous. And our pièce de résistance is our lining. Sorry, not our linings, our handles. Now, the only tricky parts of this bag are the flap and the handles. You get those right, everything else just comes together really quickly. These are the parts you need to be precise, but they're not hard to do. This is one handle that's prepared. You see that? And I'm going to show you how to prepare the handles. It's dead easy once you know what to do. Like most sewing things, once you know how to do it, walk in the park. So I'll show you how I've started off preparing the handles. This is what you've got to do. This looks really stupid, doesn't it? This is my handle strip, and what I've had to do is cut it very precisely, and I've turned it under 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I've glued it. I've used little dots of glue all the way along, and I've held it down with paper clips. These are vinyl covered paper clips, very useful. They don't leave a mark. You can get them from any kind of office supply place, any pharmacy. They're really easy to get hold of. So I've done that with those, and to fill out the inside of the handle, because it's not just flat, it's got a little bit of padding in here, I'm using a strip of fleece. And the strip of fleece you just cut a little bit smaller than this, but here's what happens when you've got your fleece and you pull it, goes into a cord. Da-da! It's much easier to use it this way than to use a proper filler cord, which is a nightmare to try and get in these handles. This is the easiest way to do it, so I'm going to show you how to do those when we get to that stage. So, when I'm doing this, if you're following along and you're going to kind of sew along a hot patterns with this one, you need to do it the order I'm doing it in. And it's the same in the instructions. You need to prepare this bag the order I'm going to show you it in. If you don't, life will be miserable for you. If you do, it's all going to be good. So let's start. Alright, so we're going to start by putting the flap together. And of course you're going to sew it right sides together, obviously. And because this is a faux leather, we know we can't use pins. That's not a realistic option. So paper clips to the rescue. They're really, really useful.
Show me what you're doing.
I'm sorry, I'm going to show you. I'm just paper clipping it together instead of pinning it, because it's just going to make my life and, frankly, yours a lot easier. It really is. So just roughly paper clip it around the edges so it holds together. And I'm going to start sewing from the centre here, and go round here, and then go back and go the other way. So nothing gets to twist and pull. It all kind of, you know, sits where it should do. It's just an easier way to do it, and I do that with most things that have got a shaped corner. Now in the machine I've got heavy duty thread, I've got a leather needle, and I've got my Teflon foot. My Teflon foot is going to glide over this really, really well. Incidentally, this fabric, this faux leather, it cuts like a dream. It cuts like a ribbon, I promise you. And it sews really well as well. It's actually a really easy fabric to deal with. As long as you have this, you are good. And they're not expensive either. They're dead easy to find. So, okay, I've got a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I put it down here. Get rid of the paper clip. Try not to sew over those. That'll cause you problems. And off we go. My stitch length is 3 on this, so it's mine goes up to 4, so it's 3. So it's not massive, but you don't want it really, really tight, because that's going to actually shred the seam. It'll shred along it, so you don't want to do that. So, and we're not going to do back stitching either. We're going to stitch over the start and stop of this seam line. So I'm starting just about an inch before the centre. Okay, so I've done the flap all the way around the edges. I don't know if you can see that the seam lines.
Just hold it forward
there,
of your, that's that.
like that. I've gone over that way and then that way, so it's kind of sealed all the ends in. Now, what we have to do is turn this out. We want nice curves on here. We can't realistically press it open. I mean, we can a bit, and I'm going to show you how to do it, but you need to actually notch into these curves really, really closely. So what I'm going to do is let me just move the machine out of the way. Okay, this is the easiest way to do it. Fold it in half, like this, at the apex of the curve. Snippy snip. Go like that. Okay? You're going to keep doing that all the way around. Get it as close to stitching as you can, but don't forget this fabric is not going to fray. It's a faux leather. It's not going to fray. So you're not going to have too much of a problem with that. Snippy snip. And then, if you want to, you can get right in. I'll try and show you that way. Into there. And just clip it as close as you can. I'm going to trim back these pieces so we've got as little as possible to kind of bulk out in there. So you've got some little notches through there. That's what you need to do on all those 3 corners. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to show you how you very carefully press this out as best you can, because you just want to melt your bag, that's for sure. Okay, you will notice that this is now a very strange shape because I stuffed a towel inside it. The key is to get it right into your corners, because these ones will behave really, really well. You don't have to worry too much about the straight edges. It's the corners that you want. And stuff it in as far as you can, and then kind of persuade it. I think that's the term, persuade it to bend the way you want it to do. So you do a little bit of finger pressing first, and then you very smartly plop a towel or muslin or something over it. That means basically it'll get the heat, but it won't get the metal of the iron touching it. And obviously minding out your fingers, because you don't want to steam those as well. Right, now the heat will kind of persuade it to go back again. So just hold those bits back until it's cooled down, and you'll get quite a good result with this. So that'll be that. Now, if you are having problems with this, what you can do is dot some glue under there, get your clips like that, and just pin it back like that. And obviously just give it half an hour or so to dry, and it'll be good. So you can do it that way, or you can do it with the iron. So I'm just going to go ahead and do all of this, and then turn it out, and you'll see how nice it's going to look. Okay, so I've turned out my flap, and I've pressed it just with a towel on top, and just around here. If you're having problems with getting a nice kind of curve, take a long skewer with your scissors closed and just run them gently along the seam line like this to kind of push it out. It's a dead easy thing to do, but this stuff really behaves itself very well. So we've got this lovely flap, ooh, gorgeous. So now I have to apply it to this. This is the back, don't forget we've got this strip across here. And this is kind of equidistant, it's centred up, and so our sewing has to be along here. So we're going to sew it so it looks like that, okay? And then we're going to flip it back here and sew it again along here so it's kind of sealed together. Now the best way to do this is to take your trusty pattern, because you don't know where the markings are. And what am I looking for? Oh, that's what I'm looking for. Okay. I find when you're marking on this, you can use a number of things. I've actually been using a cosmetic pencil, white eyeliner cosmetic pencil, because it wipes off really well. But a ballpoint pen will work well as well because it just wipes off. So you don't need to worry too much about that. So, let's see, just fold it along the dotted line. The dotted line or the dashed line will tell you where it's got to be. Like that. Offer it up like this.
You just pull it towards you slightly.
Towards me?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
it. Thank you.
Fine. Okay, and let's do it this way. Don't forget, this is a one-time deal. You cannot go back and do it again if it's all gone horribly, horribly wrong. You just can't. It's not going to happen. So, we're going to put that there. I'm just going to get some sticky tape and just stick it in position, so bear with me a second. Okay, so I'm going to lift this up and show you now. I've taped this into position. I'm going to sew it along here, and then I'll show you how I flip it over and sew it again. Of course, I'm going to persuade my machine to go through all these layers, but it'll be fine. All right, so it's sewn across here. Now, the reason we're going to pull it up here and sew it like this,
Bring it back to you.
sorry, like this, is to basically seal in the seam allowance that you find here. I'm actually going to trim this down a little bit before we do it, so it's got as little as possible to go through, because I don't think my machine would like to go through like sort of many layers of this. So I'm going to trim it back to about 1/4 inch, and then we'll flop it over. Okay, I just thought I'd show you the pressing bit, because it's easy for you to see how to do it, and making sure that the iron doesn't come in contact with the actual fabric. So that's it when it's all trimmed back. See, it's really quite close to the seam line, which is what you want. Now, clearly I don't normally iron on my table. I don't normally sew on this table either, so I've just put a towel down, a doubled over towel to protect it from the heat, and I'm going to pull this back here, like this. Smooth it out, and pop another towel on top. Now, this stuff can take heat. What it doesn't like is the metal touching, so you can steam it and zhuzh it and do all that kind of good stuff to get a nice finish. Just don't let the metal of the iron touch it, because you'll melt it. Okay, so that's nice and flat now. So I'm just going to go in and do a really simple row of top stitching all the way along there. I'm trying to avoid doing as much top stitching as I can on here because I want a very clean finish. But the truth is, with a bag like this, with a texture like this, you really don't notice it anyway. So if you have to do more top stitching to get a clean edge like around here, don't worry about it, you can do that. Okay. Okay, so I've got my fleece here tucked in, and like I say, when I tug it, it goes into a cord, so this is great. So I've just folded it in half, I've put my needle through to make sure everything's sealed in, and the fleece finishes about here. Okay, so we're going to start with it, and we're just going to edge stitch along, edge stitching all of the thicknesses. This is why we folded it down here, so we get a nice neat edge when we're finished. So I'm just going to stitch it back a couple, and off we go. And I'm doing it maybe about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Can you see all this, Germ?
As good as it's going to get, yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Nothing wrong with low production values. Now, let me just do a little bit here, and I'm going to turn it round so you can see what I've got. Okay. Now, if I do this, you see what we've got there? Mm-hmm. We've got that nice finished handle, and it's got a little bit of padding in there, just enough to make it comfy for you to carry it, but not so much that it's going to bulk it out and make it into this big fat sausage. So I'm going to complete this handle now, and then I'll show you how to apply them. So now I've prepared the handles, which are looking rather fabulous. We've got to apply them onto the back and onto the front. Don't forget the back's got the flap, the front has not. And this is the easiest way to lay them out, like this. I've just used some tape, and I've lined them up. At the bottom edge here, there's 2 notches and 2 notches. You just put them over there and they're going to go up to here. And when you see on the pattern, you'll see the markings that you stitch up, across and down here. So I'm going to do that. It's not hard to do. You just got to slow down, take your time, and as long as they match, as long as they're even, you're good. I mean, you don't have to be like really Mr. Precise. It's got to be exactly this amount. They've just got to match. The back's got to match the back, the front's got to match the front. The length of the handles is exactly the same. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to complete constructing the back. So now I've attached the handles to the front. That's what the front looks like. Rather gorgeous. And the back. That is what the back looks like. Again, rather gorgeous. And now we have to do a number of things in this sequence. We have to attach the bottom to this edge on the front and the back. We have to do the side seams of here, and then we have to box out the bottoms. All very simple things, all really just basic straight seaming, but you've got to be precise with these. Now on the bottom of here, you will find on your pattern little notches. That's really where you have to start and stop your stitching. If you don't do that, it's all going to go horribly, horribly wrong. You'll get puckers and tucks and things and you won't like it. So stick with those. And as always, because we're using a faux skin, it's a one-take deal. You can't go back and unpick and kind of redo because you'll have big traumas. So make sure, you know, when you're doing like DIY, you measure twice and cut once. Same kind of thing. Lay it out twice, make sure it's all okay, and then just sew it. Okay, so here is our bag assembly with the bottom in. Now, the next things we're going to do is we're going to join the sides, and there's a little pleat at the top as well, and I'll show you how to do that. And then we're going to box it out across the bottom here, and really that's our bag construction done. All we've got to do after that, I say all we've got to do, is purse feet in the bottom and put the lining in, and we are pretty much good to go. Now, don't forget, when you're doing this, when you're using a real or a faux, leather or suede, you are going to end up top stitching the seam allowances back when you've done a seam like this. If you don't, you're just going to get a big lump of seam allowance there, because you can't press them back. It's just not going to work. You can, of course, glue them back if you don't want to do top stitching, but honestly, it's the quickest and easiest and most effective way of getting a nice flat seam. Seam it there, finger press it, and then top stitch either side of the seam line, and you'll get a really nice finish. Alright, so the bottom is in, the sides are all sealed up. We've got to join at the bottom corner here, but first we're going to do a pleat at the top here, and we'll show you how, the easiest way to do it. Now, we have a pleat at the top here, which makes the bag kind of scrunch in into a square shape, which is really nice. And when you're dealing with this, of course, you can't use pins, or you shouldn't use pins. So what you want to do is get your notches and just pull them in like that, and then you're going to sew across the top here. But before you do that, the easiest thing to do is this. Fold it in half, right sides together, and sew from your notch down just about 3/8 of an inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch, doesn't really matter. That'll all be sealed in when you seal the facing assembly in, but it means that the pleat kind of stays where you want it to be when you're flattening it out like this. You flatten it out like that, it'll stay where it needs to be. So do it that way, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So when you've done your pleat, this is what it looks like at the side. Just a little pleat, but it adds actually quite a nice bit of textural richness to it, and it's one of those kind of little professional touches that looks so good. It also reduces the top opening of the bag a little bit and makes it fall better. So that's one of the reasons that we did it. We didn't want to kind of do things that you had to put drawstrings or something through here to kind of clench the bag closed. If you don't do something like this, a pleat or some kind of method of tightening up at the top, you've got basically a box and it'll just kind of hang out like this. This way it kind of wants to stay like that. So now we're going to do the bottom pieces, and these are really kind of crucial, but they're not hard to do. As always, you've just got to be precise. So we turn it inside out, and let me show you this way here. Okay, there's the bottom, there's the side seams. You've just got to join it along this seam here, and you're going to stop and start where that seam starts there. So that seam line there that joined the bottom to the front and the back, that's where you stop and start, and you make sure it lays nice and flat, it's dead easy, it's straight through like that, and then you clip each corner. That's what you have to do to box it out. So here is your almost completed bag. Almost completed because of course we haven't got the lining in, we haven't got the last magnetic closure that sits here, and we basically haven't finished it off. So the next thing we're going to do is put the purse bottom in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up for this and kind of lean over into the middle of the table because it'll be easier for you to see what I'm doing. Now, I don't think you can see me. You can probably see me now. You can see my hands, and that's the important thing to watch. Okay, we're now going to put our bottom in. Here is the plastic tapestry canvas, and I took the precaution before I put this on. Remember those little marks I made on the inside of this? I cut the little holes for the purse feet. So now we're going to put the purse bottom in. So this goes in here, and I wanted to show you actually how it looked, but it's in such a tight space, it's really not going to be that easy to do. So we'll see what the lovely Jeremy can come up with by way of zooming. I'm not sure. Can you see in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's in the bottom, and what you've got to do is kind of finagle it so it goes right into the corners, but it's not that hard to do because it's cut to precisely the right size. The key with these kind of things when you're making them is the work isn't actually in the bag, although you know there is work to be done. The work is done in the pattern, so if you just follow the pattern, cut precisely, you will be good as gold. You really, really will. So I think we've got that nicely there, and you can see the difference already. It gives it a bit more oomph, a bit more kind of body. So I'm now going to fumble around like an idiot and try and find these holes that I've cut, but it shouldn't be too difficult because, let's face it, they're around here somewhere. Okay, so this is what the inside of the bottom looks like. You can see I've pushed the purse feet through the mesh of the tapestry canvas, the plastic tapestry canvas, which means it kind of holds it in position, which is really useful. And it just sits around the edge here where it bends up into the bag body, which means when I push it all back in, like this, let's see if you can see the effect we get. We get a much more substantial bag bottom there. Can you see that? So now, here's what we have to do. We have to attach the facing and lining assembly. We have to put on the magnetic strap and then close at the line. There's the last three things to do. Okay, to add the lining to the bag, here's what you have to do. I just clip these out of the way with a bulldog clip because otherwise it's like sewing an octopus. There's kind of handles and stuff everywhere. You turn the lining facing inside out, so all your nice pockets are tucked away in there, and you basically just put one inside the other. This, of course, you have to scrumple a little to put it inside, and it doesn't really matter which side you have, which pockets, but obviously you make the choice on that one. It's your bag. Okay, it's all tucked in there. That's what it looks like. Pretty grim at the moment.
Wow, who'd have thunk it?
I know, it's a shocker, isn't it?
Mm.
So all you have to do is match up. So don't forget you've got right sides together. Right side of the facing, right side of the bag. Line up your side seams. We use our paper clips. Clip those puppies together. And I'm going to join it all around this top edge like this. It's just a one circle operation. It's really not a big deal. I've taken the precaution of notching the centre, front and back as well, so I can match those up. So I'm going to do that, and then when I've done it, I'm going to probably push the seam allowances to one side, but I'll show you what I'm doing when I do it. Okay, so I've kind of scrunched it onto the sleeve arm here, and obviously I've gone in through the hole in the lining. That's one of the reasons we have a hole in the lining. And I'm going to do the top stitching or the under stitching about 1/8 of an inch away from the seam line, with the seam allowances going this way into the body of the bag. And like I said before, it's just going to give it a nice professional finish, and we can now see if we can persuade my machine to go through and receive a lot of layers. That's all we need to know. Oh yes, this is such a great machine. Old but fabulous, not unlike myself. So we'll go right round and I'll show you the finished article. Okay, so we're coming up the finish line now. We've just got two very small things to do. You can see we've got the inside is all lined. Ooh, pretty. And we've got to do the other side of the magnetic snap closure, and we've got to close up the lining. Both really easy jobs to do. Now you can see on the front, I've just put some tape with a little kiss mark. That is that line on the crock there. That's the centre. I made sure I centred it up because it's making my life a lot easier. And this kind of corresponds with the piece of interfacing that's on the inside. So that's where it should be. And I'm just going to double check. I've put the other side of the magnetic closure on here. And I'm just going to check if it hits where it should, by laying it down and just flopping it on there. And oh yes, I'll just show you. Perfecto. That's why I called it perfecto, because it is. Okay, so I'm going to put the other side of the purse snap in, and the best way to do that is to keep the tape on, snip in 2 tiny little slits here, and just put it through like that, and then we'll close up the lining. And of course I've got to go in here to do this because I do not wish to be cutting through my beautiful lining and facing. I'll be very, very, very upset about that. So here's how you do it. Fold it in half along your mark. Get the darn magnetic closure. The great thing with these magnetic closures is they're really strong magnets, but of course when you're trying to pull them apart to do something with them, it's like really impossible. There we go. Oh, finally. Okay. Fold it in half like this. I'm on the centre line. Offer that up like that so you can see roughly where it needs to be. Maybe a little mark. Double check. Perfection. Okay, and now I'm going to snippety snip. Just a little snip, not a big snip. Don't need huge great holes hanging out through there. Okay, remove the tape. Of course now I'm going to lose where the cuts are because they just disappear in this. But what the heck, we don't care. And I can feel a little square of interfacing behind that's in the right position, which is great. And one thing I haven't told you is that this is actually my prototype. I haven't made this bag before. This is the first time I've made it. So let's see, it's a learning experience all the way along. But I hate to be smug, it just proves that if you measure off your patterns and you cut properly, it all works out beautifully. So flatten that one. There's your purse strap. Let's just check it again. Not that we can do anything about it now, but we'll do that. That's how the front looks. Fabulous. Right, last thing to do, close up the lining. Here's how you do it. Okay, you've got your hole here. Really, really easy. Just tuck those seam allowances in like that, and you're just going to edge stitch along the edge through those 2 thicknesses like this, right along the edge like that. So I'm going to change my thread colour to green because, you know, may as well, and just do that, and I'll show you it when it's done.